Still nothing. No.
Somebody is.
Yeah, we're gonna just skip over. Yeah, I'm sorry.
No,
We should have. Like,
well, yeah.
What I asked him.
Yeah, there's
Tell
couple
them
things.
tonight if we got enough time between meetings.
Solar array and then,
No.
We're looking for it.
I did.
A definite maybe. We're looking for a definite maybe.
Brian, you got your charger. Okay, all right.
Please rise for the pledge of allegiance. Councilman Bukowski, if you could lead us.
I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Madam Clerk, if I can have a roll call.
Councilmember Barbara Bukowski. Here. Councilmember Michael Jazinski. Hold on one moment. I did not have him online. Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Vernon Thompson.
Here.
Supervisor Brian Noah.
Present. We have 5 present. This evening, we have a couple of presentations. We're going to begin with 777 Indian Road. Dan Young, if you can introduce us to this section of the agenda.
all right, good evening, council. You guys hear me? I know there's always complaints about the microphone. Yes, my name is Dan Young, planner with the Building and Plumbing Department. The first item before you tonight is 777 Indian Road. It's a 40-acre site that is a former landfill that is currently a brownfield within the DEC program that has a cap installed as of 1998 with a long-term maintenance and monitoring plan. The group that is here to speak tonight, AC Power, has interest in establishing a solar array on site. And solar arrays being established on brownfields is a very common practice across the state. This use isn't identified within our local zoning code, so we wanted to have the board's insight before they started really diving down into the process. The representative, Gina Wolfman, is on virtual access tonight, so I'll turn it over to her. And Kim, that'll be the PDF PowerPoint that was sent to you earlier. Ms. Wolfman, the floor is yours.
Hi, I don't know where, am I up on the screen at the far end of the room? Great. So I'm here this evening with Alex Caven. I believe if he's not there yet, he'll be joining shortly. Alex is from Tetra Tech and he is on our, he's a project manager for several sites that we're working on in New York State. And he'll be there for an in-person presence. And I apologize, I would have been there as well, but had knee surgery 9 days ago, so I'm grounded for a bit. But I'm the lead for the project development team at AC Power, and we're a woman-owned solar developer based in New York City. Our mission is to transform previously disturbed sites into revenue-generating clean energy projects. So we only develop on landfills, Superfund sites, old quarries, mines, RCRA sites. The more highly regulated and more contaminated, that's right up our alley. So any projects that require creative development are in our wheelhouse. And we do not clear trees, we don't site projects on farmland, and we don't fill wetlands for solar. So just an overview, we're considered a brownfield redeveloper, and we have community solar projects in New York, New Jersey, Illinois, which are our top 3 markets, but we also have sites in Maryland, as well as Colorado, Virginia, Ohio, and Michigan, where there's some new projects or new programs in the works in those states. So we're looking at land there as well. We have a pipeline of about 240 megawatts of solar sited only on these types of sites. So New York, we have the Lancaster landfill, which is right down the road from you all. I believe many of you, if not all, are familiar with it. There is some screening off the highway, but that's one of our larger sites in operation. We have the Fort Edward landfill and also the Queensbury BASF site, which is a RCRA site, both either going into construction or soon to be operational. We have 2 community solar projects we're really excited about in Niagara on Republic's Pine Avenue landfill, 2 co-located 5 megawatt community solar projects. They're preparing the site as we speak. As well, we have a project in development in Tonawanda, others in Alden and Newstead, Salina landfill, which is a Superfund site regulated by US EPA and DEC. Another landfill in the town of Northeast in the works as well. So very familiar with New York and experienced in permitting and developing those sites, bringing them to NTP. So we have 9 operational projects, another couple under construction, and then 29 under development currently. So just a quick review of this slide. Lancaster, it's an aerial view of that project. Here's our site plan from Niagara. Oh, am I moving I'm looking at my own slideshow. I'm sorry, should I be asking you to advance the slides? I'm on the second one right now, or slide 3, with the photos for our New York community solar projects. Queensbury as well. That's a RCRA site right on the Hudson River. That one's going into construction, and Fort Edward is almost complete and operational. So you can move to the next one. Again, 6 landfill projects in New Jersey that are in various stages of development. Old Bridge is the global landfill Superfund site. It's on the national priority list with US EPA. We developed a solar project there, worked with the PRP group, and we actually acquired the underlying land for that site. So typically, we control our sites through a lease agreement, an option first, and then lease, which is typically 25 years with 2 5-year extensions for the project. But we also do consider acquisitions of the underlying land. So then we would own the sites. We're building a portfolio of sites we actually own. You could go to the next one. So I thought this slide would be helpful since I don't believe you currently have any solar projects in the town. This is our general process. So first, when our business development team and our BD analysts are through screening sites, they look at all kinds of criteria to determine whether the site is suitable for solar development. Then it gets handed off to my team. We immediately apply for interconnection because it's critical that we understand the potential upgrades that are required and the cost, because that can kill a project if it's too high. So we get ahead of that right away. And then while we're waiting for our CSER, that's our utility study, this site would be in NYSEG territory. That takes up to like 5 months to receive the study. So while that's underway, we go into our pre-development due diligence. We look at title. We get a handle on the site's regulatory status, closure. Is it still in remediation? What has to be done there? We have our engineer work on a critical issues analysis and a permitting matrix to identify all the approvals and permits we need. We do a site visit because we need boots on the ground if we're going to undertake any of this work. So we need to see the site. And then we have a phase 1 environmental site assessment completed, which gets refreshed later before the project's built. We specifically select engineers and environmental consulting partners with experience on these types of sites, on landfills, as well as developing solar layouts from a civil perspective. They work with us on our 30% designs to get us through our permitting. So the top priority for our engineering and design process is to maintain the integrity of the cap or the remedy on the site. And when we design, we will always have a pre-app meeting with the environmental regulators, and then we have all kinds of setbacks and other requirements to make sure our design steers clear of any remedial features on the site. So leachate collection, groundwater monitoring wells, gas vents, anything that requires access for ongoing O&M or environmental monitoring. We do any technical work that's required for permitting. For instance, for landfills, we go to DEC for a post-closure use modification. We need desktop geotech analysis done, slope stability, veneer analysis, so that we know we're not disrupting the cap or current conditions on the site. And then once we're through, in New York State, you're required to make your 25% payment for the interconnection improvements, obtain all of your local land use and zoning permits. Now, as of November, we need our environmental permitting as well. And then we can submit to NYSERDA's New York Sun program. And that's the award for our offtake for the project. So we need somewhere to send the energy that's being generated at the site. And you can move on to the next one. And is Alex here? Is Alex in the audience?
We
No.
don't see him.
Oh, okay. He must have been delayed, but so I can go over this one. Alex Caven is our engineer I mentioned earlier. So first we look at download and obtain any publicly available information on the site, DEC, EPA. They're typically online repositories of documents. We familiarize ourselves with any consent orders, records of decision, closure reports, post-closure, site management plans, environmental monitoring, whatever we need to understand about the site in order to design a project so that we don't disrupt anything there. The foundations for any capped or closed landfill are ballasted, so they're on concrete blocks with steel posts. And we do that again so we don't disturb the cover system. And those are all accounted for in our stormwater management. Again, I mentioned the desktop review of any subsurface data so that we can make sure that the foundation system isn't overloading or overbearing on the site. And to date, that hasn't ever been the case. All of our projects have analyzed well for geotech. We look at, again, for setbacks and design criteria, always local zoning and land use setbacks, anything dimensional and bulk regs, we meet whatever is required by that zone. If there's a solar ordinance that has specific performance standards or any other requirements related to solar energy, we comply with those. Landscaping and screening, sometimes that's required. Again, depends on the local code, but often these sites are not in areas that are visible or have neighbors that would be concerned, depending on the zoning. Again, buffers and setbacks from any remedial features or engineering controls, we stay clear of those and make sure everyone has full access. Equipment siting, again, the modules and panels sit on the ballasted blocks. They're strung together in panels, tables that are strung electrically and then on the ballasts. Any electrical cables, again, are in at-grade conduits and they're protected. So we can't be excavating or digging. And the equipment, there's minimal disturbance. Again, all of the transformers, inverters, any equipment goes on a concrete pad and it's basically poured on site and minimal disturbance there as well. And those are accounted for in stormwater. So next one. So this is our site. I'm not sure if you all are familiar. It's 777 Indian Road. In the front parcel, it's two parcels. The front which is the access parcel, is in Depew, in the village of Depew, and the bulk of the project site is in Cheektowaga. The parcel fronts Indian Road, and those are the two ID numbers noted there: 103.19-1-1, 103.19-2-2. Owner is Land Reclamation, which is an affiliate of Republic Services. And the site is zoned M1 light manufacturing in Cheektowaga and M2 in Depew. So access would be through the Depew parcel that fronts Indian Road, and the acreage of our development project is, the two parcels are 2.95 acres and 41.8, but we would occupy a rough footprint, of less than 20 acres to accommodate the project. We work around slopes, we avoid wetlands, shading, anything, any constraints that are identified. And it's currently, as Dan mentioned, a closed cap landfill with, in our opinion, actually no feasible higher or better use, because it's a capped regulated landfill. There's no opportunity for commercial development, clearly no residential, and this type of project lends itself or is very suited for this type of site.
Ms. Wolfman, Dan Young speaking, just in keeping with time for the work session, could you just touch on points of, what a project like this would do for the community, and what, how a project of this nature is managed long-term for a community?
Yeah, okay, so do you want to flip through these quickly? I just wanted to point out that the layout that you see there was done for interconnection before we had any actual site data, so this will change. And it's roughly a 3.25 megawatt project or system that we're hoping to maintain on the site, but it won't look like this exactly. We're working on that right now. I was hoping it would be ready for tonight, but I think by the end of the week, we'll have the conceptual design or preliminary layout. So Dan, were you saying benefits to the town? There would be an opportunity for a pilot. I have not reviewed the RPTL. I believe it's 487B8 or 8B. There's a listing. All taxing authorities would be notified at the appropriate time, and there'd be an opportunity to negotiate a pilot for the project. It would be a community solar project. So I believe the town, as well as any residents within a certain radius and maybe even surrounding communities, could subscribe for a discounted electric service. And again, the percentages depend on, where we are. We'd have a better idea later, but I think it's typically 10 to 15% or more, but don't quote me on that. Another benefit is that it's development that brings in tax revenue, but it doesn't impact municipal services in any way. We don't generate traffic. We don't have any roads to be maintained. We have no school children, no residents, no need for water or wastewater treatment, no lighting. It's basically the project is built, and then long-term O&M is a pickup truck or a small vehicle with a couple technicians doing annual and semi-annual inspections, and any repairs if a module goes down or needs to be replaced. It's very minimal traffic to the area. Did I cover? I think, is that what you were thinking about as far as?
Cover, the part that I wanted the board to hear specifically of how this could benefit the community. Was there any questions at this time?
Got a few. Well, first off, I'm glad to hear we're using that ballast system, because my understanding of how that works, you're not going to be breaking into the soil, everything's sitting right on top, right?
Absolutely.
The phrase community solar was used in the course of your presentation. Did you discuss the benefits with community solar already when you talked about benefits to the town, or is there anything?
Really, the benefits are that the community would have the opportunity to subscribe to the program and get discounted electric rates.
Thank you. There was a megawatts, different numbers thrown around. Can you remind me or say again what the proposed power generation is on this particular project?
We are hoping to maintain a system size of 3.25 megawatts AC. That's what we submitted for interconnection before doing our constraints review, and things are looking good right now, based on the information we have.
And if you can, just to measure that a different way, could you estimate how many homes that can power? Or just give us an idea of how much power that can provide to the community.
Yeah, I don't have that at my fingertips. There's an EPA calculator, and I did not run that, but I could get that back. I could email it in and provide that information.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. The last question I had, and maybe it's dealt with in the fine print, is about decommissioning of this equipment. So as I said, I'm happy to hear about the ballast system because that's a good start. But one of the concerns I have is that after the course of using this equipment that's no longer working obviously gets removed and taken out of our town, right?
It was.
So if there's a scenario where for some reason this whole system is shut down, can we be rest assured that this equipment's gonna be removed from the town and not left to rot like an old factory, so to speak?
Absolutely. On every project, we prepare an engineer stamped decommissioning plan that with cost estimates. And typically, again, as part of our approval process or a condition of approval, we provide financial surety, usually in the form of a bond for that decommissioning down the road. In towns that have solar ordinances, it's required 9 times out of 10 to have a certified decommissioning plan and financial surety.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Any other questions from board members?
Yes. If I'm correct, I think that's what was considered the old landfill, wasn't it, Mark?
Correct. No, that's the BFI one. Schultz was next door where,
Yeah,
Oh, okay, this is the BFI then?
Mhm.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because like I said, that dump has been there, God, since I was in high school. And the only thing, I live right in the neighborhood, not too far away, it amazed me how much has settled already. You got any idea how much more it may settle?
that's where the geotech comes in, that when we do the analysis with our engineer, and unfortunately Alex isn't here, he could explain that whole process and what they look at and how they run. It depends on the material, the thickness of the landfill mound and the cap material as well. They look at a whole slew of.
Alex is here.
Oh, okay, Alex, I don't know if you want to talk about
Yeah,
geotech and what you guys look at when.
sure. Yeah, sorry I'm late. I went to the town hall and then the senior center and then here.
Oh no.
Excuse for my tardiness, but yeah, we do a detailed analysis of essentially the cap and the underlying waste mass.
Alex, can you pull the mic a little closer, please?
Yeah, can
Thank
you hear me better? And typically what we see is that the load that's added to the landfill cap is not enough to cause any additional settlement beyond what would be happening naturally. And, once you get to a point where a landfill has been closed for more than 5-10 years, the settlement from the waste load, the natural process of decomposition within the waste load is minimal. So you're not likely to see much more settlement at that point.
All right.
And
Yeah.
DEC reviews, they require that we provide the geotech analysis, and that's part of our permitting with the Materials Management Division. So we would be looking at Region 9 out of Buffalo, and would work closely with them.
Any other questions from any other board members? Seeing none? Appreciate you being here. That's any other comments, Dan, before we move on to the next one?
No, I think they covered it at this time.
Okay,
Dan, I didn't know if you wanted to discuss at all what a path forward we might have, or is that something you handle in the work session after we leave?
I mean, we can cover that at this time. I mean, as of right now, there is no solar on the books when it comes to zoning as far as, use being permitted in that district. When Ms. Wolfman and I talked, originally this use isn't permitted, and then, we had a further conversation and realized that this could be an opportunity for use variance to be established. Given the brownfields limitation of establishing other uses, a use variance could be a case here. And that would be, if filed and accepted, that would be the path forward of establishing a site plan for, establishing a project on this site. One of the concerns that I had, solar itself is a type 2 action under seeker. However, use variance does require the seeker to be done with the action that's going for approval. So that's a gray area that we'd still kind of have to work out. But that's tentatively the path forward at this time.
Okay. There were 2 parcels mentioned, and something about a parcel being in Depew technically. Are both
Yes.
of those parcels in the town of Cheektowaga? Or are we talking a parcel in town and then a Depew parcel that's gonna have to be dealt with by the village to some extent?
It is a Depew parcel. I have reached out to Depew at this time and not heard back from them of how they would want to handle that. Whether they would put them through their own review process or if there's some sort of access agreement that the applicant could establish with them. The actual project would be on solely Cheektowaga property.
Yeah, okay, but the
So the
access
road-
point, the road would be.
Yeah,
in
the
village.
current access point from Indian goes through a parcel that's within Depew.
I see, okay, thank you. All right then, next up is 1593 Walden Avenue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here.
All right, so 1593 Walden Avenue is a quick service oil change facility that is looking at 4 parcels. If you're familiar with Relinsky's on Walden Avenue, it would be the front parcel and then the 3 rear parcels are under consideration. Part of this process would be establishing the use under a motor service district, so they would be seeking an amendment. And the applicant wanted to gauge the board's insight and just kind of give a quick presentation on the project that they're proposing at this time.
Before you do, you said there's 4 parcels that would be put together for this?
Yes, so tentatively there would be 4 parcels combined. One with frontage on Walden, one that would cover the entirety of Ebby Ave, and then Dale Road would be the rear access point.
Okay.
I believe we have reviewed Michael Haig for this project.
Yes, thank you, Dan. I appreciate it. And hello, board. Thank you for taking the time. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. So as Dan mentioned, we are here to discuss 1593 Walden Avenue and a potential redevelopment of the building that is currently a Metro by T-Mobile. As a background, I work with Quattro Development. We're a build-to-suit retail developer based in Chicago suburbs. We've done approximately 170 projects since our founding in 2008. I believe our 5th project, when I was just starting with the company, was just down the road at 1717 Walden. It's the Aspen Dental and Chipotle. That was one of the first projects I ever worked on when I was young. So we have some familiarity with the town of Cheektowaga. But we are, as Dan mentioned, seeking to a zoning change from the CM to the MS. The client we are currently working with in our rollout is Take 5 Oil Change. It is a quick service oil change facility. They specialize in just doing oil changes and no other kind of major ancillary services. So it's a stay in your vehicle operation where there's no public seating area inside the operations. They average about 50 cars or 50 vehicles a day. We think they're a great use for this corridor, specifically because They don't add a lot of traffic. They're a low traffic generating use. And there's also a lot of ancillary automotive uses in this area, with the car dealership being just north along Walden, AutoZone adjacent to the east, and also a Delta Sonic repair shop adjacent to the AutoZone. So it's kind of an automotive service area already. The existing building is very, very close to what Take Five's prototype is. So we are seeking to retrofit the existing building as it works to for our client standards. And I think one of the benefits to this proposed redevelopment is, we are understanding that the existing access to the site is problematic with a incredibly close curb cut to the intersection between Pepe and Walden Avenue. So we would be removing that curb cut and having access along Pepe, and certainly seeking to beautify the overall area with additional landscape buffers along both Walden and Pepe and Dale. And I included in our kind of package to Dan some preliminary elevations of what we're seeking, or what our building would, probably our client would prefer it to look like. Obviously, there is, we haven't gone in with our architect because there's an existing tenant operating. So once, if we were to be rezoned and approved, I guess some of that is subject to change. But we just feel like this is a great fit for this area, and it would be a minimal. It wouldn't affect any of the neighbors adversely. And I just have included on the call, we have Anthony, who is with Carmina Wood. They're our local civil engineer. So if there's any engineering questions you all have, we have an engineer. And we also have Brett Dahlman, who's our head of construction for Quattro Development, and Severin Krabchuk, who is our project manager for this project, and would be happy to answer any questions. I know we also have a preliminary site plan that we had included in the package as well, and I'm happy to answer any questions. But really, we just wanted to kind of get an idea from the board what everyone's thoughts were on this, and as we seek to change the zoning so we can get a special use permit for the motor services district.
Got a few questions, but any other board members would like to go first?
Sure.
You had mentioned that this is going to be on 4 parcels. Maybe not currently. There was like 1 or 2 houses behind that.
Correct.
Are you planning on using that space as well? Or
yes. So the 4 parcels, I believe there's still 1 existing house that's along Dale Road to the rear that would be demolished along, I believe, with there's either a shed or a small garage. All of that would be demolished and landscaped accordingly. And I believe where the house currently sits would be either a parking area or landscaping. So it's a significant amount of landscaping, and I actually believe we might be, we haven't run the numbers on it yet, but I think our goal at least is to have a net zero or an increase in overall pervious area.
have you spoken to the homeowners?
The ownership group of which we are under contract to purchase own all 4 lots.
Yeah, are you able to bring up the site plan by chance? Just so the board
Which one
can
do you
see.
Which one do you want? I had the exterior elevation, the first one up there. You want the counts or the retro?
Retro. In the meantime, was there any other questions from the board at this time?
I had two. I don't know if there's anybody that can answer them. First has to do with hours of operation.
Mhm.
Can anyone speak to that?
Yes, so hours of operation for Take 5 are typically between 7 a.m. and 7 a.m. and 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. Typically 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturdays and 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Sundays.
Okay.
That's their typical. And their peak hours are 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. They find that, which I think is another benefit to the surrounding corridor from a traffic perspective, just because it's not adding to traffic during kind of peak rush hours. Most people typically get their oil changed in off hours.
And, the other question has to do with the curb cut on Walden Avenue. We've got another shop that's similar to this on a major road, and it can be really difficult for vehicles. The way it's positioned, you have to exit onto the state highway to get out. It's very close to a signal and be problematic. So I'm looking at the site plans up now. Is the plan right now to have vehicle traffic all exit onto Pepe Place to hit that light that's there? Because that would be ideal.
Correct. Yes, we are. I believe the DOT would require us to close it anyways, but we certainly think that from a safety perspective, having all of the traffic exit onto Pepe Place makes the most sense.
Yeah, you've got a signalized intersection there.
Exactly.
You have to deal with that closer to Rolinski. So that's biggie for me. So if that's part of a plan, makes it less challenging for me to accept this. So thank you. Any other council? Councilman.
So circle back, you mentioned this would not adversely affect the other businesses. Were there concerns that you did have that it may?
I'm sorry, could you say it again? I did not hear this at the end of that question.
You mentioned earlier that this wouldn't adversely affect the other businesses. So did you have concerns that it may affect other businesses?
I was when I made that comment, I was specifically referring to traffic and the traffic impact on neighboring business. But I also think just from an operations standpoint, all of the activity is handled inside of the building, so there's no external noise, there's no compressors or anything like that. So it's not a traditional repair shop where there's junked cars sitting out in the parking lot, etc. Parking is, that's to the rear of the building that won't be visible from Walden, is only for employees. And yeah, I just feel like, at such a highly trafficked corridor such as Walden, having a quick service restaurant on that corner would be add significant amount of traffic, whereas this retailer specifically does not. And that's where I was saying with the adverse impact.
One last question. As far as delivering like supplies and equipment and things like that, will there be any sort of weekly schedule? Would it be like a box truck since there's not a lot of items to be delivered there, or what's that look like?
Yeah, Brett from my team, would you be able to speak a little bit to like the standard deliveries? We have 4 that we've currently developed that are open for business, and I believe Brett, our head of construction, might be able to speak to the standard operating procedures of deliveries and trucks.
Yeah, I can try on that. I think it's all a little bit different and obviously based on the use or how many customers they have. Really, it boils down to bringing new oil in, taking the used oil out, and stocking any air filters or oil filters that might happen. Again, that's typically on an as-needed basis. They don't have a set schedule for it, but it would be during business hours, and obviously it's a minimal impact on the traffic for that as well.
So you would typically have enough space for maybe a semi to turn in and get back out, or a smaller vehicle thing?
I believe it's a smaller vehicle. Definitely. I don't believe it's a tractor trailer. I think they have more like single unit trucks that come in and take the deliveries. part of what we do as we're going through design is make sure that we run templates of any of the largest vehicles that will maneuver through the site and make sure that they can get in and get out properly. This is kind of looks like a prototypical site for Take 5, so I don't foresee any issues with it, but obviously we will address that as we move forward.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else? Dan, is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, not this time.
All right.
Just thank you to the Michael's group and coming for the board today. We appreciate your time.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Thank you, everybody.
You,
All right, and with that, we're gonna move on to old business, and unless other board members have updates on this, we'll be very brief this morning, or this evening, on the preservation ordinance. We don't have an update on that this evening. Work continues behind the scenes on that. Have a draft, the goal is to have a draft law in 3 weeks. On the EMS study, still waiting to get the final report there. I checked in with Jay Tolsma for an update this afternoon. We still don't have that yet, so we'll be reaching out to Paul Bishop about that. With that, we do have the resolutions. We also have a need for an executive session. I would like to take the executive session out of order. If there's a motion to second, I'm going to make a motion to enter executive session to discuss contract negotiations with the Public Safety Dispatchers Union and the history of financial history of a particular corporation and matters leading to the employment of that particular corporation. Is there a second?
I'm sorry.
We had a second from Councilmember Thompson. All in favor? Any opposed? We're entering executive session. Second from Councilmember Kaminsky, all in favor? All right, we're out of executive session. Make a motion to exit, to end the work session. Make the motion, second from Councilmember Kowarski, all in favor? All right, the work session is over. We'll be entering the regular meeting.